Good evening, and welcome to another eye-opening episode of Diatribes from the Voice of Doom. And here's that votary of Nichiren Daishonin for the latter day of the law, Voice of Doom. Hello. It's the evening, and I made it through a day off without doing anything really stupid. So I'm happy about that. And I decided to get on my vestments and do a little diatribe on the history of religion, part 5, I believe, maybe 6. History as I have lived it. I left you where I was kind of immersed into Buddhism kind of through a series of weird happenstances. And I was bound and determined to do my best to discredit the whole thing. So I started getting into Buddhism. But before I go into that, I want to give you an update on the news because I really should comment because things will be happening quickly. And I want to get the scoop in first. So as I said, I am wrong most of the time when I make a prediction, and I predicted that the D would come out on top for this election. Now, as I speak now, it's 9:04 Western time. So it's midnight on the East Coast, and they're still counting the votes, and the more that the D is behind, the slowly they will count the votes. And I see glumness on one corner of the ring, and I see elation on the other. And I will perhaps be proven wrong, but if I am proven wrong, I'll be proven right, because the pristine election system, the electoral system, which was proven in 2020 to be the Immaculate Conception. The entire voting system of America was without flaw, without any error whatsoever, because Petri dish won somehow. Now, there seemed to be discrepancies, but anybody that raised a finger or an eyebrow to say anything was branded a racist and carted off to jail. So, in introspect, or in the converse, you would say, if D doesn't get enough votes, I already heard the dog whistles, and there's lots of dog whistles going on, so the dogs must have a headache. That, we'll scrape up the votes we need. I heard that from some tout. It's close still, and I'm sure we'll scrape up the votes we need to win. So no concession has been made as of now. But it's looking like 54-48, and I go to MS. Because I love watching them when they're really up against it and they have really nothing to say. And they were like, it's a close race, too close to call, 54-48. If the other way around, they would be probably doing self-gratification on the screen of the TV set or whatever you guys watch. But no, a bit of glumness and a bit of kind of having to say things they really don't want to say. In fact, one anchorette in MS, and I don't know, they're really ridiculous, so I try not to watch them, but they look nice, they look pretty, but delusional to the core, to the max, to the very inner core of their being. That thing that goes throughout all eternity has got a lot of work to do. And I'll get to that now, because when I moved to LA and immediately went to a meeting the next day, and went to the temple like 2 days later and got my scroll called the Gohonzon and had it enshrined in the place I was staying, and they said, start learning the practice, and I said I would. Then I started learning it, and it was hard at first because it's very long. At least it was back then. And I didn't have to worry about trying to learn it because they called me every day to make sure I was learning it, and then they called me to tell me they'd I should go to a meeting and learn more at this meeting, and then there was another meeting and another meeting and another meeting. Then there's a bigger meeting. Then there's a show. And then I go to one of these things at their community center where there are only about 100 or two people, 100 or so people meet at a time, maybe two. And, there's a brass band and there's a piano, and I start playing, and then they're like, oh my God, let's get this guy in here with the music. And, I felt like I was appreciated and really didn't care, but, I'm going to start doing things. Okay, I'll do musical stuff. And my buddies from the band flew over a few weeks later, and we lived together, and we had it together to where I had a plan for what I wanted to do. And I had a concept, but it was going to be difficult because we were in a new place, and the audience wasn't ready for it, and the town wasn't ready for it. It was a very commercial situation where you just don't go out and play gigs. So we knew that would be hard, and then my one bandmate who had most of the equipment had to go to Philadelphia because his grandmother was sick. And so he just moved away with all our stuff, and that was that. But in the meantime, I did get him to join the organization, and they were even wearing the uniforms for a while, and, so going to big activities where we had uniforms. I'll get into that later. But that was the first few months, and my one buddy who stayed was like, I know this practice makes sense, but I don't want them pulling my chain and calling me and telling me what to do all the time, and I understood that. But the seed was planted as far as I was concerned, because I was already starting to get into it, and I was a pushover, and I was going to go and do the activities. And I'm glad I did. Now, some of these activities included big production numbers. I mean, big shows in arenas, huge ones. And I realized these were the same Buddhists that were in Hawaii that I saw building the islands and having these big extravaganzas. And I go, oh, these are the same guys. And it's like, wow, that's weird. Because I told you about my connections and intrigue and how I was into Jesus. And now I'm reading a lot about Buddhism, and a lot is not just reading about sutras and India. There's a lot of deep, heavy stuff. And as I read more and more, it's like, man, I cannot argue with this crap. And I wanted to argue with it, and I couldn't. Now, here's just a few things I learned. There's the 10 worlds, which is hell, hunger, animality, anger, humanity, rapture, learning and realization, bodhisattva, and Buddhahood. From the lowest to the highest, hell to Buddhahood. And there's the potential for each of the 10 worlds within each 10 worlds. So I learned that you can be in hell and then be in Buddhahood in a split second. And that's called Ichinen Sanzen. In any one life moment, you have 3,000 possibilities, stretching from hell to Buddhahood and any permutation in between, hunger, animality. I can explain that more later. I'm just going real quick over really big concepts. Kyochi Myogo. I understood this right away, but when I explain it, people don't understand it, and I don't understand how to do it, but I understand the concept, and it means the fusion of objective reality with subjective wisdom. Subjective wisdom being what we think we know, which is subjective to whatever our surroundings and our perception is. And objective reality is the truth, cause and effect, the ultimate truth that a Buddha is privy to and the Buddha lives by. And to be a Buddha doesn't mean you're a Buddha all the time. But you try to maintain that life condition. That's what they call it, life condition. And I'm like, objective reality fused with subjective wisdom. That's really heavy. And if you think about that concept, think. Subjective wisdom, what I think, how I perceive the world, what I do in this world. Can I fuse it with the ultimate reality, the objective, indisputable? It's really heavy. Itaidoshin, many in body, one in mind. One of the first concepts that made me realize why this religion was right, because they're uniting everybody under one mantra of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, which is praise the mystic law of the Lotus Sutra. And you can't argue with it. Praise cause and effect, because that's the only thing you can't argue with. And I start thinking, I was of Jesus. I believe Jesus died for my sins. Now what? I mean, am I making a mistake? Because, I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior, and I didn't deny him, and I didn't discard that particular belief, and I didn't renounce my religion previously because they didn't ask me to, and they didn't care if I did or not. And I said nothing, but I think about it, and it's like, now wait a minute. Let's just look at it really objectively, like maybe a Buddhist might do, and say, I'm God, and I'm the only thing in existence. And I'm lonely, so I'm going to create a universe that's absolutely vast. And I'm going to make a planet, and I'm going to put animals and humans on there so they can worship me. Now, this is according to the Bible. And he did so, and it was good. Now, all fall short of the glory of God. Man had original sin. The first man that sinned was Adam. The first family he puts on earth was dysfunctional to the max. Brother kills, one guy kills his brother like, Michael Corleone, and, who knows who they were marrying. And he sinned. He ate the apple. All right, we all know that. We've all sinned since then. God is like, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, meaning you can't get into heaven unless there's some atonement. And mankind or humankind or they kind cannot atone for what we've done. So I'll send a perfect person to atone for their sins. And then all they have to do is believe in that person, and then they can come to heaven. Now, that's it. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. I don't know what I'm talking about. Now, that's the crux, that's the core. Now, why does a God that creates a vast universe need bloodlust? Why does he need torture? Because we have to compensate for these sinful people by torturing and giving a grisly death to a perfect person. And then it occurred to me that really Jesus wasn't perfect. I'm sorry. But I can name 2 instances where he wasn't perfect. And everyone can rationalize it any way they want to. He was a young kid, and he got separated from his parents. And they didn't know where he was. They were probably frantic. You're in Jerusalem or someplace in 1 BC or whatever, and your kid's not with you. You don't have no phones. You don't have a buzzer. You don't have a beeper. You don't have an intercom. You don't even have an established way to say my kid is missing. You just run around Jerusalem looking for your damn kid. And they find him in the temple, and he says, you should have known I'd be here in my father's house. And he's going to get away with that. Second time, and I don't care if it's righteous anger. He went into the temple and he destroyed the place because he was angry. And maybe he was right to be angry. But it was the pretense they needed for him to fulfill his mission of being tortured and murdered on a cross. So see how I kind of blended them? I want to talk about more things about Buddhism, but my time is almost up. But I had to examine all my old beliefs objectively, and I am still taking a chance. If my Sunday school teacher was right, then if I don't believe in God, which I don't know, I can't say I don't believe in it. I don't understand what they is. God. And if you can give me a rational explanation of what God is, then I will try to believe. I believe in something. I believe in something powerful out there. And I have no idea what its nature is. But I just have to have faith that I'm doing the right thing and that I'm living cause and effect, that my next lifetime will be, a good one because of what I'm doing now, which I think is good. So I only did about half what I wanted to do. But I said a lot. And maybe someone could think about it, really, because, it's pretty heavy stuff, and I can get more into this. I could do nothing but diatribes on religion for the rest of my life. But I'm not going to, because Petri Dish keeps on fouling things up, and I have to have a running commentary on his behavior and on the madness and the conflagration, which will be about 29 days. But yeah, a little more on the religion. I'll do more later. And it was enjoyable. I liked it. I'm going to listen to it right now. So, shalom and amen. And Nam Myoho Renge Kyo.